I'm joined right now by Eloise Hazelwood. Eloise, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me.
You're going to talk to us today about lead poisoning.
Absolutely.
Now, what's kind of unusual about this is why would we be talking about it in the spring? Can you tell me?
Absolutely. The reason we're talking about it in the spring is because, especially in New England, we're all tired. It's been a really long winter. So as soon as the warm weather comes, we think about home projects. Okay. And lead is in most of our homes, particularly here in New England that were built before 1978, somewhere have a level of lead-based paint. So when spring comes and people start renovating the home and start scraping the paint, we're having issues with children getting lead poison because people don't think about lead in their home.
Okay. Now, is there an increased number of cases right now in Wallingford?
There is. Actually, in Wallingford right now we have a total of 7 children who have a blood lead level from a venous blood lead of greater than 5, and we have a total of 12 children who have a blood lead level in a capillary, which is a different type of test. But most of our children, the majority, were actually exposed to lead by home renovations. So the parents, started renovating the home, weren't taking into account the age, and particularly when you start scraping paint. In New England, because we have our weather issues, back in the day, actually, HUD used to make you use lead-based paint if you wanted a government-backed mortgage.
So it was a law.
That was a law.
They had to have lead paint in their home.
That's correct. So if your house is older than 78, somewhere in there is a layer of lead-based paint. So we want to try to get the word out from a renovation aspect. Is called Renovate Right. So don't spread lead. There are 2 different campaigns that we have from a statewide level. One is geared towards our contractors to make sure that the contractor is a Renovate Right contractor, which means that he's certified in lead abatement and lead safety when it comes to renovating any home, particularly a multifamily home or any home where children reside. The other program is called Don't Spread Lead campaign, and it's really designed for the homeowner so that when they go to the paint store to purchase paint, there's brochures right on the counter that talks about how to remove lead safely. Most of the times lead-based paint was used in the kitchen areas or in the bathroom areas or outside on our large Victorian porches, the beautiful porches, because it held up very nicely. It was very durable, it had a nice sheen to it, and that's why it's used in those areas, particularly when you're looking at a window area. So in our case, in Wallingford, people think of it as an inner city issue, but it's not an inner city issue. As I said, ours is mostly from people doing home renovation, and it's not necessarily that the child is eating the paint chip. You and I would see that, a parent would see that. But what happens is that the dust that occurs from the friction of the paint now is lead-based dust.
So they can breathe it. They can breathing that in.
Yeah, technically they ingest it, and it's correct. Particularly when you're looking at a young child, a 3-year-old, standing at a window well, looking outside the window, perfect height. Their face is right at that windowsill. And so, yes, they're mouthing it, they're ingesting all of that. The other issue that we're having is that people use a lot of home remedies. So you have to be concerned with where is the spice coming from. If it's an imported spice, there may be lead in that spice. We had some issues with home remedies for illness, for cosmetics for women. So again, just know where the product is coming from. And more important, we offer free home assessments for lead risk-based home assessments.
So they could call you.
They can call our office.
I'm concerned. And what homes are at risk?
Any home that was built before 1978.
Okay.
The other program that's available, which a lot of people don't know about, is called Birth to 3. And we did put information on the town website so that they can download our fact sheets on it. But the Birth to 3 program is a Connecticut program that's free of charge for any parent. Any parent can self-refer. A physician can refer. So if you think that there are developmental issues with your child, whether they're not crawling when they should be, they're not as verbal as they should be, you can call this number and they'll do a free assessment. There's no charge to you. And if the child qualifies based on the developmental issues of the child, they'll actually come into the home and they'll work with you on that particular issue, because it may be lead-based and it may not be lead-based, but lead poisoning impacts every organ in your body. Wow. And so what happens with lead poisoning is that you may not know that your child is lead poisoned or has an exposure to lead. The only way to find out is by doing a blood test. Okay. So right now what's required is that the pediatrician or your family doctor will take a blood test of any child who's 1 year old, and they'll continue to take it all the way through. Anytime the child is under age 6 is when there's a potential for a developmental issue that's based because of lead exposure. And it impacts everything, particularly when we look at our developmental. We're looking at an IQ issue. We're looking at the central nervous system, the blood system. Lead actually replaces calcium in the body, so it impacts the growth of our long bones. So, and at very high levels, it can be, children can go into convulsions and they can actually die from lead poisoning.
So I don't think people understand how serious this is. I mean,
it's extremely serious. And again, you know, the issue that it's an inner city issue is not correct. It's not correct at all, particularly with our beautiful older homes here. And we do have beautiful older homes, but when we renovate, we need to renovate right.
And that's why you have those great programs, so you can find out what builders or what renovation teams will renovate right.
Absolutely. So the contractor itself, we can also give information to the parent concerning if they're doing self projects at home, how to do it correctly. I mean, lead-based paint, as long as it's intact, not friable, you know, is not presenting the problem to the child. It's when it becomes friable, when there's friction, when it creates the dust, when it becomes chipped, peeling, and cracked, when it presents a potential hazard to the child.
Now, we're out of time, but I just wanted you to mention briefly, you also can do programs. If someone calls your office, you can say, you'll do a presentation anywhere.
Absolutely. Right? We'll do presentations to kindergartners, to moms groups, to whomever. One of the programs that we use is right here is the Sesame Street program. So it not only teaches the mom or the parent, it also teaches the child.
Great. And for more information, then call your office and check out the websites. We'll have this on the screen.
Thank you very much.